What's up, guys? Welcome back to Notes from the Progressive Revolution. This video, I wanted to talk more about Stacey Abrams, just like in general. She's being floated as a VP pick for Joe Biden, and the media is going on and on about how she's this perfect progressive that will be able to, speak to progressives' needs, get them a lot of progressive votes because she is a progressive. And just every time mainstream media really starts hammering home that someone is a progressive and a good progressive, a progressive we should like, that means that they are like a centrist Democrat or like a corporate Democrat who is speaking like a progressive. Anytime that there is an actual progressive, the media will talk about them in fear-mongering terms. So just like kind of like be aware of that. Like for me, anytime that I hear the media talking about someone that's a progressive in like positive terms, I am immediately suspect of that person. Because let's just remember, the media is a hostile environment to us. Again, there is a class warfare going on right now, and the media and the people in the media are not on our team. Whether or not they're aware of it, I don't think maybe the anchors are fully aware of it, because they're just really rich people who are so completely in their media bubble that I just don't even know if they are. I don't think that they'd be good enough actors, that they are good enough actors, and they act dumbfounded all the time by like any left perspective. So I just truly think that they aren't that smart and have no idea what's really going on in the world and are so disconnected from the real world that they just truly don't even know, what the actual political divide in this country is. So that's like typically a good rule of thumb. Like if the media is really working hard to get us to think that there is someone that is progressive, that is like good, we're all excited about that person, look into that shit. And if they're talking about someone else who is like scary and a progressive, who's communist, socialist, that person's probably just would be like a left of center in any other country. That person's probably just fighting for like basic human rights and basic human dignity. And another thing that I've noticed is like anytime some corporate Democrat comes out as a fake progressive with like one big policy point that they want to champion, it's usually that policy point now that they're championing as a progressive is only there to deflect from their terrible actual record on that exact topic. Like I remember when Kamala Harris first joined the primary race, coming out as a progressive with this like huge criminal justice reform platform, and everyone's like, oh, she wants criminal justice, she's so great, she's such a progressive, Kamala, look at this criminal justice reform platform. And you look at her history and it's because she has been terrible on criminal justice. Like when she was the attorney general for California, she locked people up, she fined families for truancy, she defended tooth and nail the death penalty in California. I mean, it's tragic. And this happens a lot. I had one other example. Oh yeah, I mean, like in Pete Buttigieg, coming out as like a super progressive on like all kinds of issues, coming out as like this super young guy who in his he hasn't had a lot of time to do much, but he's exhibiting a lot of potential here. And it's like you actually look at his record and it's like, yeah, no, he hasn't been around for long, but in the short period of time that he's been here, he has done a lot of destruction to his town. So much so that he can barely go back to his hometown without being followed around by angry mobs of his own people just heckling him and being furious with him. So like, be aware of that. And the same exact thing is happening with Stacey Abrams right now. Her big policy issue right now is Fair Fight, is her like voter enfranchisement movement that she's doing right now. She's got a group called Fair Fight, which is fighting to ensure voting rights for people and turn people out and register a lot of new voters. And she's seen as like the voting rights politician, the new progressive voting rights person. But it's like you look at her history and she's actually been trash on voting rights. Okay, so let's just look at some facts here that I gathered from The Intercept and Jacobin, two great online publications that I highly recommend, great independent media sources doing some of the best journalism, some of the most honest reporting. Few people have actually checked Stacey Abrams' voting record. A lot of people, a lot of media people are just kind of like going, this new person that came out of the blue, Stacey Abrams, she's super for voting rights. And it's like, you don't want to provide any context? You got all those millions of dollars over there at the media. You're not going to do any research, provide us any context. In moments like that, it's really hard to feel like it's not purposeful, but I also think that they are so incompetent too, that like maybe the people doing the work are so incompetent, but they keep their jobs because the people at the top are evil. You know, I think it's like this ugly, like symbiotic relationship of incompetence and then deliberate misinformation. Anyhow, so back in 2015, when Abrams was the caucus leader of the Georgia House Democrats, she approved and instructed the caucus to support a redistricting proposal that shifted the lines in 17 House districts in the state legislature. It was a radical move to reshuffle the state's assembly districts in the middle of a decade, okay? So this was even before a new census, okay? Just 4 years after the redistricting that followed the national census. Okay, so yeah, it had been 4 years since the census, and she instructed all of the Democrats to approve a GOP bill that changed all the legislatures in the middle of a census decade. Okay, like before the new census even came out, just completely changed all the districts for no reason, and she didn't put up any fight. Okay, literally no one in the Georgia House publicly objected at the time, and the bill passed unanimously. Well, want to know why? Want to know why nobody objected to it? When the bill arrived in the Georgia Senate, legislators enacted. So after it was in the House, it went to the Senate. Legislators and activists noticed that the maps appeared to be redrawn in a deliberate attempt to section off African American votes in swing states, entrenching several white Republicans in crucial seats. Okay, so like anyone that looked at this for 2 seconds could see exactly what was happening, that it was like an obvious, blatant Republican play to redraw the districts unfairly in the middle of a census decade before it was even time to redraw the districts, just to help Republicans in vulnerable seats. Okay, like this is a very thing that if you're the opposition party, very easy thing to fight against. Okay, quote, "It didn't take me long to see the redistricting in Gwinnett, in Henry, and in Atlanta were all dilutions of Black voting strength," says former state senator Vincent Fort, a Democrat from Atlanta, in an interview. "I remember reading it in my office and just about hitting the roof. I remember saying this was just an obvious case. Even Ray Charles could see this was the dilution of Black Democrat voting power." The Georgia GOP went on to maintain their majority in the House in the 2016 elections, and some districts were so rigged, Democrats didn't even try to challenge Republican control. That election cycle, the Georgia House of Representatives had the highest number of uncontested seats in the nation. So that's what that redistricting did. It kept the Republican majority, and made the district so unfair. Some districts didn't even get a Democratic challenger because it would have been so lopsided and so unfair, okay? So that is how destructive that bill was. And that's how much Abrams seemed to care about voting rights back when she wasn't a media darling and wasn't up for vice president. Though it would make sense that Stacey Abrams would be a choice for Joe Biden as a vice president, because his entire career has been, the hallmark of it is working with Republicans to pass Republican priorities. I mean, the bankruptcy bill, the freaking Clarence Thomas, the Iraq War. I mean, like, that's been his whole day. I mean, and literally he was chosen as vice president for Obama because he was like the conservative Democrat that would calm down all the other conservatives. And that was the Democrat tacitly going like, don't worry, we're not going to get carried away with our progressive values now because Barack Obama is our nominee. Don't worry, we got Joe here as an anchor to hold him down. Once the district maps were passed, there was a lawsuit to throw them out, and lawmakers, both Democrat and Republican, have testified under oath that Abrams, as the caucus leader, was privy to the changes that were being made, okay, and instructed her caucus to vote on it, but didn't share with the caucus the changes that were made, okay? It's not unusual on political votes, including redistricting matters, for the caucus to vote unanimously, said Ronnie Mabra, a former Democratic lawmaker who served during the 2015 session, in a statement to The Intercept. In this instance, the leader had information relevant to the bill that the caucus, by and large, was not privy to. And so when we saw that she was on board with the bill, we followed her lead. Okay? So it's not like Stacey Abrams put up a fight and there was nothing that could be done. It's not even like she was negotiating. It's not even like all the Democrats had all the information and no one had anything to say. The only person that had the information was Stacey Abrams. And instead of even telling the caucus about it, giving them a chance to fight back if there was anyone that did want to fight back, she, as the leader, in that privileged position with so much responsibility as the leader of the opposition party, didn't even tell them what was in the bill, okay? A bill that made such sweeping negative Republican right-wing change in Georgia. Didn't even tell them what was in it. Such a devastating bill, didn't even give them a chance to vote against it, and was just like, yeah, Republicans, let's go, let's wave this through. LaDon Jones, another former Democratic Georgia House lawmaker during the 2015 session, commenting on the record, okay, on the record, these are all people that are commenting on the record because it was so bullshit, said she recalled the vote in a similar manner. It was a pretty consistent problem with the Abrams-led caucus. Questions were shunned, she said, in caucus meetings if there was dissent on issues like this one. Unless it came from the top or leadership, it was not considered or discussed. Just follow the leadership. And Abrams, when asked to comment, didn't deny the allegations directly, but just touted the stuff she's doing now. The organization she works on to restore voting rights, because that's who she is now. Because our modern media apparatus does not provide context, they do not provide history, they act like everything's happening in a vacuum. Maybe they think that the Americans are dumb and don't want the context, couldn't possibly understand the context. I think we could. These are all very human things that are happening in terms of betrayal, you know? Like, Abrams, the kind of stuff that she's doing, like this happens all the time to normal people. No. And then not only just that, I mean, and that's not even where it ends. Back in 2011, Abrams supported a Republican measure to cut early voting in half from 45 days to 21 days. She later founded the New Georgia Project, a group with the ambitious goal of registering hundreds of thousands of voters of color. The group raised almost $4 million during the 2014 election, paying Abrams $177,500 for her role as part-time chief executive, part-time job, earning six figures. The following year, she was paid $85,000 for a year for 15 hours a week of work. Though the group submitted thousands of new voter forms, the rate of voter registration was still below that of the 2010 election 4 years prior. So that was a very successful organization. It's almost as though the organization was just like a front, just like a media thing to talk about and didn't actually really do anything, just a way to get everybody paid and say, make a lot of great photo ops and like got a lot of great things to talk about when people want to challenge you on your voting record, but without any actual results. You'd have to dig more deeply to see, oh, just because she worked in this organization, didn't actually make any change at all. So either the organization was bullshit or she's an incredibly ineffective leader. Either way, that's not a progressive I'm going to admire. But then moving on from voting rights, she doesn't just suck in terms of voting rights. She also worked with her entire career is just her working with Republicans to pass Republican legislation. I mean, Joe Biden should choose her. Anyways, Abrams worked with Republicans to pass Republican legislation to water down one of the South's most radical scholarship programs by increasing the GPA threshold for qualifying students. Why? Like, what could possibly be her progressive reasoning for raising the GPA threshold? What could possibly be? Abrams' campaign said she supported the effort in order to gain a seat at the negotiation table to prevent more draconian cuts. But other Democrats say that, again, this is something she did without their knowledge, holding secret convos with Republicans, even appearing with a Republican governor for the signing ceremony. So she was so proud of that. What are the other cuts, other draconian cuts that you stopped, Stacey? You had a seat at the table and that happened. What were the other ones that they wanted to do? Why didn't you talk to the rest of your caucus about it? Why are you being so silent? Why aren't you sharing the information, dude? Y'all a team or what? Or is it just kind of like you are the leader of the House Democrats and selling out everybody else and just not sharing any information with the other Democrats? Can they not handle the information? What's the deal going on there? I mean, I can understand why Democrats are touting her because she is a proven Benedict Arnold. She is a proven talk one way, but work with Republicans. Put on a nice front here and then work with Republicans. In 2017, she voted with Republicans against Democrats to make it harder to hold bank executives accountable for predatory lending. So this is your progressive media. This is your progressive. So basically, this is. I just wanted to make sure there was one thing out there letting people know that Stacey is not the progressive that everybody is pretending that she is, and that anytime the media again is telling you about a progressive with a positive spin, do not trust. Do not trust.